I love the beginning of this. Hello, Fives. How are you? Is it just me or is AZ3 frickin' awesome? I know I tend to be positively inclined towards droids in general, but it's not my fault they keep making interesting droid characters. I love that bit, by the way. We could still be friends, assuming we remember each other. Huh. Quick, bring it! Now, there's this nice little bit where Tyrannus, Dooku, and the Kaminoan lady both say that, you know what, this is a clear problem. Obviously, the inhibitor chip malfunctioning, that was a duh. But for some reason, Fives isn't obeying orders. He seems to actually care about another person as his friend. How strange is that? Now, I don't know if this is just her or him refusing to see reality because, you know, droids aren't people, clones aren't people. Or if this is a degree of... I'm trying to think of the title, but basically willful blindness. Like, they obviously see what's happening, and they just refuse to accept it. It's either that or they are legitimately blind enough to not understand droid effect and how it would affect the clones as well. Because, come on, this entire series has been about that. Never mind base logic. And, of course, then we get the implant out. Da, da, da. It was an implant, and it was a chip, and blah, blah, blah. You know, this is the second time in a row we've had a story arc in the Clone Wars where the problem has been the fact that the system is broken. And the only way to actually resolve things is for one person to accept going rogue and end up fighting basically their own people, even though they don't want to. Like, you notice that, right? Fives even apologizes to his fellow clones for having to attack them a couple times. Now, there's this bit where we find out that they were implanted as embryos. Stage 2, I believe. And it's an organic chip. Okay. I wrote a note in my notes over there that says restraining bolt. In other words, to relate this thing to a restraining bolt, which I talked about previously. That all these droids have this thing that prevents them from functioning or thinking and all the way. You know, it's a restraining bolt. It does exactly what it sounds like. I was just going to compare the chip to the restraining bolt. And then later on, the Kaminoan lady comes in and actually flat out calls it an inhibitor chip. Something designed to curtail aggression and to ensure that you don't have any of the problems that Jango Fett had. I found that very interesting, considering that that is basically the definition of a restraining bolt. And what's really interesting is that I imagine most people, including Jedi, would fully argue with the fact that restraining bolts need to be a thing. You see the problem here? The problem is everything I was just talking about with regards to them not understanding droid effect, because they are so accustomed to this. It is so normalized. Am I stuttering a bit? It is so normalized for them to not think of these things as people that to them they're just completely missing the obvious. It's kind of sad, really, if I'm being completely honest with you guys. I have to wonder how they even detect the chips in the embryos, by the way. Like, remember, he did scans earlier, and that didn't detect anything until he went in there and just dug the thing out. Anyways, before I move on, I have to mention this really great scene. Okay, everyone go through, act normally. Okay. La 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 la. Was that normal? Yes, for you, that was normal. Anyways, there's this wonderful bit where the Kaminoan lady insists that he is property. I mean, Jesus Christ, how much more obvious with the slave metaphor do you have to get here? You are Kaminoan property. And the general's like, oh no, he is Republic property. So we're going to go ahead and get you in, and we're going to take you with, and we're going to send you to the Chancellor to figure out what's going on. Huh. Okay. I'm sure the Chancellor will smooth everything out. No problem. If anything, I think this is probably one of the reasons why they had the Separatists go after Tup first. Because that way they have that, oh my god, it was a plot by the Separatists, and that's the end of it. There was one clone who'd been brainwashed or whatever, the end. But that way Palpatine himself can always be the backup plan. The way to deal with things, assuming things go badly, which is exactly what happens. We'll see how this wonderful arc concludes next time.